Hi everyone, and welcome to this virtual tour of Rome. My name is Archita and I'll be taking you through Rome today. For those of you who are joining on Facebook and who are new to Catafly, we organize travel, art and cultural experiences with local experts from around the world. And since these lockdowns started, we have organized virtual sessions on places in Europe. We've already done tours of Paris, France, Switzerland, and today we'll be covering Rome in Italy. And today we're joined by very special guests. We are joined by CNNJ, our seasoned travelers, and Monica Aurora, both of who have travel to Italy, specifically to Rome with Catafly. So we're very excited for this one. It's going to be a special one. So please tune in, tell your friends that this is happening now, and we can get started.
Great. I'm very excited.
All right.
You want to do with us?
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
I cannot.
So what you should see in front of you is the very iconic boot-shaped country, which is Italy. Hope you guys cannot see my screen.
I can see.
I can see.
Okay.
I can see.
All right. So here you see Italy. Of course, the first thing you will notice is its very iconic shape. You'll see that there's a couple of islands around Italy. You have Sicily down here. You have Sardinia here. And the temperature of Italy is really dictated by where it is in the world. So if I zoom out a little bit, you'll see that it's so close to North Africa right here. So the southern part of Italy has a really warm, like almost tropical climate. And up here in the north, it is actually shares a border with France and Switzerland. So it also has the Alps in the north. So it's extremely cold. So you have really beautiful contrast. But why do people actually come to Italy? It actually has the most UNESCO sites in the world. So there's a lot of history and culture here. When it comes to natural beauty, there's no comparison. Italy also, interestingly, is home to Europe's only 3 active volcanoes. And when it comes to food and drink, I mean, what can beat Italy, right? Of course, pizza is the most well-known Italian invention. And when you think of wine, you may think of France, but interestingly, Italy is the world's largest producer of wine, really good quality wine. And what you see in front of you is, of course, 2 bowls of very delicious looking pasta. The Italians have been eating pasta for a really, really long time. And actually, we have found depictions of like pasta making machines from the 4th century BC. So that's how long Italians have been making and eating pasta. And actually, in these pictures, you can see this kind of red pasta from tomato sauce. But it might interest you to know that this kind of tomato sauce used in Italian cuisine is a relatively new thing, because tomatoes were introduced in Italy only in the 16th century. So until the 16th century, they did not have any kind of tomato sauce. So this is a relatively new thing. So when it comes to the history of Italy, of course, it's had a really long history. It used to be a bunch of different nation states until it was actually unified as a kingdom in 1861. Of course, I won't bore you with all the details. It used to be a monarchy for a brief period of time. Then they abolished the monarchy and became a republic. But before all this happened was the Holy Roman Empire, which is probably the thing that we know them for throughout history. Let's look at this. So what you see in front of you is actually kind of a depiction of the Roman Empire at its peak. So this spanned many continents, as you can see, parts of UK, parts of North Africa down here. You can see parts of Arabia. They went into a fair bit of Asia as well. So this whole Roman Empire, so the name Roman Empire actually comes from the city where it all started, which is Rome, of course. Rome is the capital city of Italy. It wasn't always the capital city of Italy, and it wasn't always this like beautiful, grand city. It rose and fell throughout history. It actually fell into disrepair in the Middle Ages, so much so that they used to call it Campo Vecchio. Parts of it, it used to be like a place where cows used to graze. And here you can see in front of you, you can see the Vatican City is here. So because for a very long time the papacy was established here, the Pope used to live here. So because of this, there was some stability, and then it rose into prominence again. Eventually the Italian Renaissance, which happened in Florence, moved to Rome, and that's how Rome started rising again and became like the grand city that we know it as today. So this whole area that you see in front of you, that is kind of grayish here, this is the whole area of Rome. It's really huge, but when it was first started, it looked something like this. So this is a depiction of Rome from the ancient times. And even at that time, it was a fairly like populous city, and there were a lot of big buildings, some of which we're going to see now. And in fact, this was considered one of the first metropolitan cities in the world. So we're all probably watching from one or the other metros. And this is actually the world's first metro. So if you can see here, this was actually a major human settlement for over 2 millennia. So it's one of the cities in the world that has been occupied for the longest time. So it's been occupied since 2000 years in one form or the other. Now, how did this whole thing start? This is actually a very famous bronze sculpture depicting the twins Romulus and Remus being suckled by a she-wolf. So the story goes that, these twins were abandoned at birth, and they survived by the milk of a wolf. And eventually they grew up, and the brothers had a huge battle, and Romulus fought and killed his brother Remus and established himself as the ruler of this region, and named the city after himself. So for Romulus, Rome. Of course, this is only a story, and we don't really know if this is true because it's said to happen so long ago. But this is like the mythical story of how it all started. And back in the day, this is probably what Romans looked like. If you can see on the screen, this was a Roman dress. A lot of people like dress up like this for fancy dresses now, to be an ancient Roman or a Greek goddess. This is actually called a toga. What these men are wearing is called a toga, and the female version of this is called a stola. And in ancient Roman society, this was actually an indication of where you were in the society. So there was a lot of stratification in the society, like right from the kings and the nobility. It was very rigid, so you could not intermingle. And unfortunately, slavery was rampant. So only free men were allowed to wear this dress that you see in front of you. So not slaves. Now, from here, let's see where all of this started. So let's go to the Roman Forum. Now, many of you, when you visited
Rome,
Rome,
maybe Jay is trying to log in from other device. If you could just check, I can't see in the waiting room.
Sure, let me check.
It says, please wait, the meeting host will let you in. So.
How about now?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, she's in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
While we are just kind of taking a break, I wanted to check, since we are talking about Rome and it's the capital of Italy, do you guys know that which was the capital of Italy before Rome? Anyone wants to chip in?
No idea.
Any guesses?
No idea. It could be.
In fact,
You hint.
yeah,
I
Archita, you
mentioned
got it right. You want to go in there? But yeah, I mean,
Gonna be all right.
Rome, in fact, became the capital of Italy, I think, somewhere around 1870, if I'm not mistaken. Before Rome, it was Florence, and probably a place that all of you have been to. So
Okay.
Rome was not always the capital of modern Italy either. It was actually Florence. So I thought it's a kind of interesting bit of trivia that many of us do not realize in the modern imagination. It's a good thing to know. And of course, Florence itself is the birthplace of Renaissance. Probably requires one more session on that topic itself. So I'll not go there, and I'll let Archita continue with Rome.
Thanks, Nitin.
That was because probably of the Florence was the capital.
Are you muted?
Yeah, it was probably because of the papacy. And that was why Florence was the capital.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's right. But before the papacy was established, what you really had was the Roman Empire. Sorry, Auntie, could you please mute yourself? There's a lot of. Yeah, thank you. So actually, before the papacy was established, Rome was famous as the capital of the Roman Empire, right? And at the heart, at like the height of the Roman Empire, they constructed like magnificent buildings. They were huge builders. So all of that happened in this little piece of land that you see in front of you between two hills. So on the left side, you have this Palatine Hill, and on the right side, you have Capitoline Hill. So in between that is the Roman Forum. And if you've been to the Roman Forum, you may remember it as just like a bunch of ruins, some really old rocks scattered here and there. So, but what is really the significance of the Roman Forum? Let's see what it really looks like. So back in the day, this used to be the beating heart of Rome. So this had all your civic buildings, your places where judges used to rule, your places where people used to gather, marketplaces, you had temples. And just to give you an idea of how old this is, this was all built up around the 8th century BC. These numbers may not mean much, but this is around the time of Julius Caesar and his successor. And for some context, this is around the time when the Upanishads were probably being written in India. So that's how old this place is. You can see that some of the structures have still survived here, but let's watch a little video to see what it may have looked like at the height of its time. that's a step back into history. So that's probably what it looked like back in the day. And it's so interesting to reimagine that. And you can see that it was really, really crowded. There was very little, like even standing room. So if you can imagine that, filled with people. So eventually what happened is that they moved away to more spacious places. And this place kind of fell into disrepair, and people stopped using these buildings. And eventually a lot of it was destroyed by earthquakes and fires. And before we delve into history again, I just want to point out that in case you guys want to go back to Rome, or if anyone who's watching who hasn't been to Rome before, you will know that the same ticket can be used for both the Roman Forum and the Colosseum. And it's much easier to buy the ticket in the Roman Forum than the Colosseum, because the lines are much shorter here. So that's just a little tip for next time, or for your first time to Rome, for whoever's watching. But yeah, so this is basically the Roman Forum, and we've all heard this phrase, right? Like it's like playing the fiddle while Rome burns, and Nitin actually referenced it before. That comes from a very interesting story of Emperor Nero, who was said to be, playing the fiddle, either really or metaphorically, kind of looking away while some great fires like ravaged Rome. So this is actually the spot from where he was said to do that. We're at the foot of Palatine Hill, and actually he's said to have stood way up there and watched as the whole city was burning. And actually what happened after the city burned down, he claimed a lot of the burned down land for himself and built like private properties on that land, which actually made him extremely unpopular among the people, as you can imagine. And after his death, his successors were very smart, so they said, okay, we have to get the goodwill of the people back again. So they tore down some of the structures that he built, and built a huge amphitheater in its place. And that could give you a clue as to where we are going next. A huge amphitheater, which used to be called the Flavian Amphitheater. So Monica?
Colosseum.
Yeah, we're going to the Colosseum.
Chita, before we go to the Colosseum, I think an interesting point about the Forum was that a bustling Rome at the very beginning. And it used to be a market, and slowly it got converted to the place where all judicial activity was brought into place. And I think it was Julius Caesar who actually brought this into the legislative activity and all into the Forum area. And that time all these buildings came up.
That's right. Yeah. And it actually took years for all the buildings to come up.
Yes. And what I remember of a visit to the Forum area was little small wayside cafes with the most unimaginable gelatos. And you could sit on the pavement and have them around and watch all the ruins around you, and it's great fun there. Yeah.
That's such a wonderful one.
Yeah, sorry, I just thought I'd...
No, please, that is so lovely. I mean, the idea of just like eating gelato and seeing the ruins and imagining what it was like back in the day, that like encapsulates the Roman experience.
Like Monica was saying, in a hot summer day, there's nothing like biting into a gelato.
Oh man, this is making me miss travel. See, but here we are. So if we sat there, we could not see this beautiful view from the air. So here we are at the Colosseum. Of course, probably the most iconic place in Rome. It used to be, as I said, called the Flavian Amphitheater. And this is actually selected as one of the 7 new wonders of the world. I mean, new being a relative term, because this was actually built in 70 or 80 AD. Now, if you can see here, you can see some extensive damage to the building, as is expected for a monument this old. Most of this damage actually was caused by two big earthquakes that happened like in around the 800s and the 1200s AD. And the name of this actually came from a huge statue of Nero that was nearby. Let's go inside. Let's see what it looks like. Now, if you see here, you can see that you can actually see the outer portion of the amphitheater here, what used to be at least. And this is the inner portion of the amphitheater. You can see that there are multiple levels to the seating. And it is said that it used to hold around 50,000 to 70,000 people, more or less. So this was really huge, and it still is the largest amphitheater in the world. Of course, it was used for gladiator contests. It's what we know it best for, but it wasn't just gladiator contests. It was a lot more than that. Any kind of public spectacle used to be held in the Colosseum. So they used to have like mock animal hunts. They used to have plays. They used to have dramas reenacted here, even beheadings, unfortunately. They used to actually at some point of time have mock sea battles happen in the Colosseum, because ancient Romans, people who lived in a landlocked city like Rome, would never have seen the sea, or they would never had a chance to experience those epic battles that used to happen on the ocean. So even back in the day, like in 70, 80 AD, they had this mechanism to kind of flood the inside of the theater and bring ships in and have them battle. So it was really a place where the people of Rome gathered for any kind of entertainment, and of course, including gladiator fights. We can actually go inside the amphitheater. Let's see. Here we go. Now, of course, each of these arcs that you saw is an entrance, and it had over 80 entrances. And this is the inside of the amphitheater. Do you guys remember seeing this?
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful sight. So of course, the seating where you were seated back then very much depended on who you were. So if you were the king, you were usually seated on the north and south end, which had the best view. And if you didn't have any money, you got the standing room only seats, which were way high up here. You can still see. You can still actually, if you walk around here, you can see the name of some of the officials carved into the stone still, because that was a seat that was reserved for them. Let's see, we can walk around.
If you can still read the name and pronounce it, it's probably someone who has scratched their name as a visitor, because the old Roman names are not that easy to pronounce. Any idea approximately how many people could sit in Colosseum at a given point in time, approximately?
30,000 around, I think. Around 30,000, I think so.
Multiply that by 3.
It's 50,000.
Okay. 90,000.
It's close to 87,000 people who could actually sit in Colosseum at a given point in time.
Okay.
So, I first went to Colosseum in Rome, I think around 12 years ago. I could not imagine the proportion of Colosseum until I went in. It's only when you go in, it's possible to visualize how big a place this really is.
Yeah. And in fact, there's a lot of logistical issues that come with seating so many people in an arena like this. And these issues still exist if you build an arena of this size, like if you have stadiums. So the solution that they had is actually the solution that we still have now. So they had these, if you can see, these huge arches and a lot of different entryways that allowed people to go inside and outside very quickly, and also in case there was an emergency evacuation. So much so that these like broad kind of entrances that you see here that would lead up to the seats were called vomitariums, because it allowed people to be evacuated quickly. And this is actually where the word vomit comes from, which is like a quick evacuation of your inside. So that's like a little facet of ancient Rome that we still have today. And if you see here, these are actually, so this did not look like this back in the day. If you can see all of these kind of tunnels that you see here, this was the bottom of the stage. So this was all hidden. So all you could see back then was one big arena. And here was where all the animals used to be housed that were used for the animal fights, or this is where the gladiators used to stay before the fights. And these also had vertical shafts, so kind of like elevators, so that the props or the animals or the people could actually pop up from the middle of nowhere, and it was like for shock value, obviously. So there was really a very elaborate system of tunnels underneath this. There was also a tunnel for the king and the queen to enter, so that they didn't have to come in with the rest of the common people. So really a marvel of engineering even at the time. And here's also another interesting fact. So many animals were apparently used in the Colosseum for these fights and for these mock hunts. And most of these animals were imported from North Africa, which was at the time also under the control of the Roman Empire. So much so that it actually caused so many species to wipe out in that area. So they were importing that many animals just for the purpose of entertaining people in Rome, that they wiped out so many species of animals in North Africa. So just like, which is also really sad, but imagine the might of the Roman Empire at its height. So this was all actually covered in marble. There were also bronze clamps that really held the stone together. And you can see little marks in the stone where the bronze has all been taken out. And the stone or the marble that used to be here was taken out and used in St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican City, which is a great segue for us to go visit the St. Peter's Basilica. So let's head out of the Colosseum and let's go to the Vatican City.
When you're setting up with that, one of my favorite trivia question is, in the olden times, we have heard of these scooters, Vespa and Lambretta. Any guesses what's the connection between Vespa and Colosseum?
I think Vespa was the Emperor Vespasian.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, that's spot on.
From that, I don't know Lambretta.
Yeah. So yeah, Vespasian was the emperor who actually got initiated the construction of Colosseum. And in fact, it's not only Colosseum, but also.
But was Lambretta also a royal family? But was that also linked to a Roman sort of a lord or emperor or something? Lambretta, I don't know.
I'll have to check. Vespasian, of course, I know, but Lambretta, I'll have to check. In fact, it's actually the stones both from Roman Forum and Colosseum, which were used in the St. Peter's Basilica that we actually see. So obviously the Colosseum is and Roman Forum both are in ruins. But it's not like those stones were not used elsewhere. Now we see it right in front of us, and I'll let Archita continue. But St. Peter's Basilica, you could see it kind of replicates in some ways, metaphorically at least.
Yeah, it's actually a very beautiful link between the old and the new. So you can actually see this link between the old and the new everywhere around Rome, whether it's seeing the same stones or whether it's the name Vespa. So here we are, speaking of the old and the new. So this is a fairly new state, which is a Vatican City. I say it's new because it was established only in 1929 as a country. But as we all know, the history of the papacy is really, really long and fairly complex. And in fact, this is the famous Vatican City where the Pope lives, and the St. Peter's Basilica, of course, has St. Peter said to be buried underneath it. But the Pope did not always live here in Vatican City, so the Pope used to move around a lot. So it's actually got a very complicated history. Let's go up close and see St. Peter's Basilica. This is St. Peter's Square, where a lot of people gather during the most important Christian holidays. Here you can see the Basilica up close. This is actually also where, if you can see, this window or this little balcony in the middle of this building is where you can see the Pope give his address on, say, like Christmas Day. And other important events. Let me zoom out and go around this square for a minute so you can see how beautiful it is. You guys might remember this, but it's really a vast complex, very awe-inspiring. And this actually continues inside the building as well. This whole square was kind of imagined and designed by Bernini, who is a very famous architect. And of course, he's done a marvelous job. Just getting you to awe in the grandeur of God. Now if you go inside, we are now inside St. Peter's Basilica. St. Peter's Basilica, of course, is actually a new basilica that was built on the same ground that an old one used to be. That also this was built in around like the 1500s. Unfortunately, the old one was completely razed to the ground, so we have no idea what existed here before. Now, the ceiling, of course, is really elaborately designed, and you may think that these are paintings, but it's actually not. These are mosaics, very, very, very intricately done work. So these are all mosaics up there. This here is said to be where St. Peter is buried. You can see a little tomb here. This bronze sculpture, this may be like the most beautiful or most celebrated bronze sculpture in the world, this large one here. This was also actually designed by Bernini, but the basilica itself was a combined effort. Of course, Michelangelo had a huge role to play in this. The basilica itself, the dome was designed by Michelangelo. Let's see what it looks like from top. I don't know if you guys remember coming here, but I have like a very strong memory of just entering the basilica and being completely overwhelmed by how beautiful it is. It's so grand, it's so big, and it's so beautiful. And this was done very deliberately because it was meant to put the awe of God in the people come inside. So it was meant to make you kind of feel how small you are in the face of everything that exists in the world. And it actually does, it does that, because you do feel very small in the best way possible when you enter this place. And there's actually a climb that you can do on top of St. Peter's Basilica. And I'm not sure if you guys, if either of you like ventured up there. There's a lot of like steep stairs to go up there, but it's a beautiful view from top of the dome. And here it is. Here we are.
Wow.
Yeah. And here you can actually see almost everything that you see in front of you is Rome. Here is, of course, we were down here. This is St. Peter's Square. Some of these buildings belong to the Vatican City. Here is the Sistine Chapel, and the Pope's residential quarters are some of these buildings here. But it's such a small place. It's actually, if you've been to New York City, it's like 1/8 the size of Central Park in New York City. It has only 600 citizens, most of whom live abroad. And they are citizens only by dint of having jobs in the Vatican City. So you can't actually be a citizen of Vatican City by being born here because of certain logistical issues. First of all, there's no hospital in the Vatican City, so you can't actually be born here. So yeah, it's a very interesting city-state, the Vatican City. We can next visit the Sistine Chapel, unless anyone has any other memories of the Vatican City.
TNNJ and Monica, have you guys been
Yeah,
up
yeah. The bridge of Ponte Milvio.
Yeah, we'll get to that. In
forget
fact, know that place because of you.
Yeah, bridge of Ponte Milvio. It was a big task to reach there, but we finally did it. We carried the lock from India, and we had to just put on the bridge.
We'll get to that topic under why Rome is called the city of love.
Beautiful.
So here we are inside the Sistine Chapel. The Sistine Chapel is actually the private chapel of the Pope. So this is where the Pope prays privately. If you have come here, or if you were to come here on a regular day, this place is filled with people. It's filled with people because it's one of the most beautiful frescoes in the world. And it's actually kind of hard to in all of this beauty because you're constantly craning your neck to see up. But here, because with the help of technology, we can actually take a very leisurely and an easy look up at the ceiling, which is of course the highlight of this. I'm just going to take a moment to look at this because of how beautiful it is.
Actually, it's
yeah. The colors are so vibrant, and this is of course Michelangelo's work. It's probably Michelangelo's one of his most famous works. But interestingly, I think this is this story that I'm about to tell is such an interesting observation on people, and especially supremely talented people in general. So when Michelangelo was first commissioned to paint this by the Pope, he thought that his rivals were playing a trick on him. So he was because he thought he was an okay architect, and he thought he was a good sculptor, but he thought that his painting was really subpar. So he thought, I'm not good enough to paint the private chapel of the Pope. So this must be a trap. So they want to set me up for me to fail. So that's why the Pope is asking me to do this. He could not believe that the Pope believed in him enough to paint such a beautiful piece, such an important piece. And nonetheless, he accepted the work because you cannot say no to the Pope. And he painted this, and within 1 year of painting the ceiling here, unfortunately it got moldy for some reason. There was mold on it, and he was this as a sign of his failure, and he went to the Pope hat in hand, and he said, look, I told you I'm a failure. I told you I can't do this. And the Pope said, it's okay, just try again. And he actually painstakingly redid the whole thing, and then surprisingly it's held up pretty well. As you can see, the colors are still really vibrant. A lot of work is done, of course, to keep it the way it is. And if you zoom in, perhaps, of course, this is an iconic work, but perhaps the most famous work here is this one. Let me see inside if you can see. Can you see what painting I'm looking at?
Yes.
Can you see right in the center of your screen?
Yeah, there
is a painting of God giving the gift of knowledge to man. So here you see man, and here you see God. And this painting is actually quite famous because of a couple of reasons. First, because this depiction of God, it's kind of a man in a human figure. This was the first time that this had ever been done. So that God was depicted in this kind of human-like fashion. And also Michelangelo very cleverly has designed this in such a way that this looks like an anatomically perfect brain. So this actually looks like the brain around God here. So this is kind of a metaphor that God is imparting knowledge to man. So, it's not just this, not just the brain, but throughout these paintings, he has included a lot of kind of Easter eggs like this, where he incorporates some form of the human body in the painting. And this was a testament to really like how much work he did in really perfecting the human body and how much he knew about anatomy. And in this whole fresco, there are two kind of self-portraits that Michelangelo hid somewhere in the painting. He has drawn himself. And unfortunately, they both depict him like not in a very flattering way. So this kind of just tells you how he saw himself. I mean, he was fairly like negative towards himself. Here is his work for so many years later.
Any of your favorite memories from Sistine Chapel? Yes.
You're just overawed moving down the corridors and looking at the ceilings. And like you said, you need to have a good, strong neck. All the time looking up, like, yeah, it's so beautiful, actually.
Yeah, it really is.
It's so beautiful.
And all of you, since you're great photographers, I'm sure this is like kind of your best place to be in.
No, as I remember, unfortunately, you're not allowed to take photographs inside the Sistine Chapel.
That's right.
And so I mean, it was. I don't know if they now allow photography without flash, but I don't think I had. Yeah, at that point of time, I don't think.
I think there's a special permit that you need to buy to be able to.
Okay.
Like photographic.
There is another little bit of a trivia concerning these paintings and the decorations in these monasteries and in the places of worship and all. And I don't know if you had heard of these two different orders, Christian monks. The Benedictine and Franciscan on one side, and the Capuchin monks on the other side. And their total, the difference in their approach to life.
In a more puritanical.
Yeah, the Capuchins believe that Christ gave his life, and he lived a life of poverty. So if you Capuchin monastery, it's stark, none of these paintings. And it's all stones. And you know was the color of the robes that a Capuchin monk would wear. And that was the Capuchin monks. Whereas the Benedictines, the Franciscans, believed that life was a joyous event to be celebrated, and all these paintings and the decorations. And it's so lovely to see the contrast between the two monasteries, the churches, when you go across there. And it was wonderful, yeah.
It really is beautiful. And we're so lucky that we get to see this.
Yeah.
And it truly is a marvel. These are all actually, most of these were interestingly just constructed in a very relatively short period of time. And these are all kind of Renaissance work. So this was when the Renaissance was at its height. And there were so many creative people just constructing and drawing and making really, making beautiful art and music. And during this era, so not only was this constructed, but a lot of fountains and obelisks were made throughout Rome. And of course, the most famous one of these
Fountain of Trevi.
Yes, that's where we're going next.
Yeah. The I found that the best in Rome, actually.
Yeah. Did you make a wish?
We did.
I did.
Tossing.
But I think
behind us, yes. In the
Trevi was longer than the wish.
In the Trevi Fountain, yes.
It's a beauty. It is an amazing beauty.
It's the best gelato in the place. I remember that again.
That's so interesting.
Gelato.
In this square.
It's an amazing beauty. I've never seen such a beautiful fountain.
In fact, I mean, you can typically make 3 wishes, and I hope that at least the first one comes true, which is that you can go back to Rome. And if you put in the coin, I'm sure Archita is going to cover, but in a way you actually contributed to a charity.
Yeah.
And any guesses how much money or what's the total value of the coins that's kind of put in Trevi Fountain every year, approximately?
It would be in millions and trillions. Definitely.
It's actually slightly less
because
than a million.
It's so full. It's so full. It's so full. The virtual picture is showing that no one's there, but otherwise it's just full of people.
No, you can see.
It's impossible to see this view at least.
There are. My God, there are.
It's filled with people.
It's impossible to see such a view, especially in summers.
Yeah.
Yes. So, in fact, it's the total amount of money which goes into Trevi Fountain is less than $1 million, around 700,000 euros.
All right.
And maybe the rest was actually stolen by a thief who, it's illegal to take the money out of Trevi Fountain, incidentally. And there was a guy who was actually stealing the money, and he was caught after 34 years. He was doing it every night. So,
oh.
Yeah. So they actually, all this money that goes into the fountain goes to a good cause because it's donated to charity. But I mean, why was this fountain constructed in the first place? Like, what is so special about this particular fountain? This is actually one of the oldest water sources in Rome. So this has been a water source from 19 BC. So that's actually why this was constructed here. So before, this is where most Romans got their water from aqueducts coming from below the earth. And why is it called Trevi? It comes from Trevi. My Italian is awful, but it actually means 3 roads. So this particular aqueduct was ending at the junction of 3 roads. So that's why this is called Trevi. And that's where the name comes from. This is one of the 2,000 fountains that Rome has. Can you believe it? Rome has 2,000 fountains. And arguably this is the most beautiful one of them all. And a great place to stop and enjoy a gelato in the square and just watch the millions and millions of tourists.
And the best time to go there is actually early in the morning. Yeah. And best time to eat gelato is of course in the afternoon or evening. But if you don't want the crowd and if you're a photographer, you probably would like to head out there probably early in the morning.
Yeah. So of course the Trevi Fountain is featured in a lot of films, and the next place we're going to go to is also really famous for appearing in a film specifically about Rome. It is set in Rome, and once I show you, let's see if you can guess what the film that I'm talking about is. Are any of you familiar with this very weird looking structure?
No.
Roman holiday?
Yes, that's right. There we go. There's a fellow film buff in the house. So this was actually used as a plot device in a Roman holiday, if you remember. And I'll explain why in just a second. So this is called Bocca della Verite or Veritas, Italian for the mouth of truth. So no one is really sure what this was originally. So this is a really, really old piece of stone. I believe it's about, it dates back to the 1st century AD. So it was perhaps used, in like pagan rituals, or it was maybe even used as a drain cover, like who knows. But what happened is that during the medieval century, this kind of myth arose that you can see this face here. And the myth was that if you put your hand into the mouth of this face carved into the rock, and you were a liar, if you told lies, that it would chop your hand off. So that's like the story behind this mouth of truth. And if you see the film A Roman Holiday, so both the characters in the movie are not truthful with each other from the beginning. So they actually visit a lot of places around Rome, and they come to the Stone of Truth, and this is where actually they start telling each other the truth about themselves. And it's a really good film to watch if you want a taste of Rome and love Audrey Hepburn. So this is the Mouth of Truth. Next, we are going to go to a modern icon of Rome, which is of Italy, in fact, which is the Vespa Museum. And here, actually, if you have either of you been here to the Vespa Museum?
Yeah, I have.
What was your experience there? Do you enjoy?
I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, I remember growing up with one of these Vespa scooters, and my dad had one, and
with an engine all on one side.
Yeah. Like super heavy on one side. So this is a really cool place to come if you like these old, the history of these old scooters, and you can see like the evolution of the Vespa scooter from the oldest one to the newest one. It seems like we may have lost Monica, so let me just see if I can admit her back in.
I think I probably had the 1965 version.
You do still?
I probably had.
You had.
In youth and childhood.
Yeah. Right now, I'm in Bali, incidentally, and Vespa, of course, has come out with a lot of modern versions, and a Vespa scooter is one of the most popular scooters for people to rent in Bali. So you have these really cute, like yellow and red colored Vespas, and you'll see the tourists zooming all over Bali in the Vespa. So from Italy to Indonesia to the forests of Indonesia, this is everywhere in the world now. And finally, to kind of wrap up this tour, just to see, so Nitin shared something interesting with me earlier today, is that he had a story where he was talking to a local there in Rome, which is of course called Roma in some dialects. And if you read it backwards, it says amor, which means love. And of course, Italy is a city of love. I mean, Paris gets that moniker a lot, but Rome is also the city of love in a lot of ways. It's very romantic. It's a great place to go to, enjoy a gelato with your loved one. But there's also a connection to Valentine's Day and Saint Valentine. And this bridge that you see in front of you is actually the connection. And Monica, do you want to tell everyone about the connection?
I really don't remember, but we definitely went to this bridge, and it was a very, very, very long journey to reach it. I just remember that. And we just got lost, and we took up the Google map, and finally it was Nitin's help, and we were there it took around 2.5 hours to reach this place, though it was very near.
Yeah.
But because we had carried a lock from India, we just remember that. I don't remember anything else.
So let me just give some background about that. So this is the bridge where Saint Valentine is said to have been killed. So of course, Saint Valentine of Saint Valentine's Day fame. And there is a lamppost or a place on this bridge where a lot of people come to like fix a lock on it. And you see this now, it's become kind of fashionable to do this on all bridges around Europe, but this is actually the original place where all this started. And if you tie a lock on this bridge, it is said that your love will last forever. So good job, Monica, on making your love last forever. So this is Ponte Milview, and this just kind of wraps up our and yeah, this is actually a bit outside the city. This is technically not in our Rome tour.
But see the Appian Way, would the Appian Way be somewhere around here?
Yes, that's right. This is actually a very important
Appian Way is what leads to the catacombs.
But that was where Julius Caesar actually also marched on this.
That's right. Yeah. And the other one of great interest, which I love visiting, is the Castle St. Angelo. That was the Hadrian's mausoleum. That's where it is.
Emperor Hadrian's.
The Emperor Hadrian's mausoleum. And it's now a museum there.
Yeah.
Definitely worth visiting.
Yeah. In fact, obviously the famous Dan Brown's novel, The Angels and Demons.
Yes. That's right. That's right.
There's a secret passage from the St. Peter's Church to the St. Angelo.
Yeah.
So it's not fictional. That secret passageway actually exists and has been
actually exists. Yes.
And in fact, that has been used by some of the popes to escape in the times of attacks in the past.
I love this. Spot the monuments.
Yeah. So I thought we'd end this with a little game. So this is actually quite a famous painting by, I believe, an artist called Panini. And he painted this at a time when it was very fashionable for youth of the nobility to go to Rome and to kind of educate themselves about the world, to see all the monuments. So this was considered the done thing, if you will, of genteel birth. So he did this painting just kind of depicting all the ancient wonders of Rome. So I thought we could all look at it and see how many paintings or like how many places we could spot.
Yeah, straight away one can see the Roman Forum, the Colosseum, the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah.
And this pillar here is somewhere in the Forum.
Yes. This is like I believe the Temple of Apollo.
Yeah, this is the Temple of Apollo. In front of that.
Yeah.
There,
what was the capital on here?
And,
the Pantheon. Can you see the Pantheon?
Yeah, there.
Yeah. So I will actually post this photo later on our Catfly page and see how many things you can spot. And there's a version of this where there's also the mouth of truth can be seen, and it's not very easy to spot. So there's a lot of Easter eggs in this photo. So that kind of concludes our tour, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And
we did. Thank you.
I love that comment about a lot of Easter eggs in this food.
Yeah, for the Easter
bunny. The Roman memories are refreshed, definitely.
That's lovely to hear, Monica.
Thanks, Archita. Thanks, Nitin. I think this has just sort of taken me back to the old journey that I made around there.
Yeah.
And guys, by the way, I must tell you that Italy and particularly is one of my favorite places to visit. I think I'm half Italian, and I have so many friends just outside Italy in a small town called Ceprano. And close to Ceprano is a village called Arnera. And Arnera is where the Battle of the Bulge was fought up the hill.
Tell me the story about the Blasi family.
Yeah, and this family, I'd been to Ceprano and I had met up with, I'd gone on business. And I was in the market square that evening trying to look at some fruit, the exotic Mediterranean fruit.
Vegetarian.
And I'm a vegetarian there, so I was looking for fruit, and I love Mediterranean fruit, peaches and pears and everything else. And suddenly, out of the blue, there is this guy who comes down there, and he says, "Mr. Senor Murthy," and I said, "Who the hell is this character?" Because I didn't know him from Adam.
He was scared of pickpockets.
And everybody had warned me about being careful in Italy, and that's another story I'll tell you in a while. So this guy, he comes up, taps me on the shoulder, and he says, I've been waiting for you to come to Ciprano. And I said, how do you know me? He said, Maria Teresa, and she was the marketing head of the company, the printing machine company called Cerruti that I was working for, that I had gone to visit. And he said, look, Maria Teresa has been telling me that you're coming, and I just wanted somebody with whom I could speak English. And he happened to be a professor of English. Professor means a school teacher there. So he was teaching English in school, and an Italian who had lived many years in Canada, and he had learned Italian. And he said, what's your plan? So I said, look, that was on a Friday. So I said, look, in just a short while, I'm leaving for Rome because I'm going to spend the weekend there. And I'll come back on Sunday night. Monday, I'm here, and then I'm leaving back home on Tuesday. So he says, oh, I'm going to miss you because he says, I'm going on a jazz tour. And so I said, so he says, look, can you do one thing? Why don't you come home and have dinner with me tonight at home? And that was the beginning of a wonderful friendship. And he was Gianni Blasi. Now, every time I go to Italy, I go to Ciprano, take the train, go to Ciprano to just visit Gianni Blasi. And one day, I'm sitting there, and his wife said, listen, can you make some chapatis and potato curry like you make in India? So I said, bring your flour. And so I started rolling the flour. And his father, Papa Blasi, walked in. And he looks at me rolling the flour, and he says, hey, you are making rotis. I said, how do you know about rotis? He says, I make these all the time in my youth. And I said, how is that? So apparently there was an Indian regiment in the Allied forces that was fighting at the Battle of the Bulge. And Papa Blasi was a baker. And he used to make chapatis and rotis for the Indian forces. And what a lovely story, Yeah. So he came around, he joined me, and we both made chapatis that day. And yeah, and they are so warm.
Very warm. Italians. They're so warm, but they just took to us they took to us like ducks to water. They literally embraced us. Picked me up in the air. Both my boys were horrified. They said, "Ye kahan se aaya?" They picked me up in the air, twirled me around, was so excited, and then fed us, and they were so warm. Not at all mistrusting. It's almost felt like we were back home.
They're so very much like us.
Bahut wine bhi piya. That's a different story.
Yes.
So yes, I think living in Switzerland, which is obviously beautiful, but a very disciplined country. In general, it's a quiet country.
Yes.
And I can completely correlate to what you're saying, because here, if you talk to an Italian, and of course us also, we always say that Italy has a sound of life.
Yes.
Right? If you want a sound of life, just travel 3 hours down south, and you'll have a sound of life with everything, the people, the food, in general, walking around in the streets, and you can chat with anyone. So very, very warm people and fantastic food. Italian food itself is a big topic.
That's true.
We always say that, if you really want a great pizza, go to a trattoria, never go to a pizzeria.
Yes.
That is so true. Right. And particularly if you get to the parts of Switzerland like Lugano and so, which is more Italian. Okay, it's so different. The culture there is so different from what you have in North Italy, right? Where it's more Germanic.
Yes.
Around there.
Well, I would like to say that this particular virtual tour has certainly whet our appetite to revisit Rome again. So let's hope for better times. Let's hope for a time when we can all travel. And we'll be the first ones out, I think.
I would certainly love to. So, I mean, Arju, you could probably, we are done with Facebook. So if you want to stop that, we could probably say bye to people on Facebook, and with Monica and CNJ, let's have a chat offline.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
So, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, guys.
Everyone who's joined on Facebook, thank you so much for joining. We're going to
Thank you, Archita. You've been very nice, and you've elaborately made us revisit Rome. And thank you, Nitin, for organizing such a session. It was great being with all of you. Thank you. Thank you, Uncle Auntie. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Monica. Bye.
I'm sorry, I just got carried away and I kept talking and reminiscing.
No, Uncle. It was very interesting, actually.
No, it's we've conducted a few of these before, but this has been so special having both of you here, precisely because of this, because we want to hear your memories of the place along with talking about it. So it's been really special. Thank you. Let me just briefly say thank you to everyone on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining, and we are doing more of these every week. So please hit the like button on Facebook, and please share this video with your friends, your loved ones, and please tune in at the same time next week. And if you can sign up for newsletters from us, we'll be happy to send you updates. Please write to us on info@catafly.travel, and we'll let you know when more of these events are happening. Thank you so much, and bye from all of us here.
Bye-bye.
Bye.